Well, I said this morning that the markets would be choppy and weird today, and that it might end up back in the green. And even as I speak right now and take a look, um, all the Mag 7 and Tesla are rapidly increasing in price and might end up back in the green. So, but that isn't the subject of today's episode. What we want to talk about today, well, the older we get, the faster the years seem to speed by. And as we get ready to bid farewell to a very rocky and very tense 2023, it's kind of hard to wrap our minds around the idea that 2026 is just a bit over 2 years away. And short of World War III or some other horrific disaster, 2026 will be a year when the Tesla story all comes together. Now, some might argue that bulls like me just keep punting the future success of Tesla down the field. But if you review my video output earlier this year, you'll see that 2026 has been my theme all along. This is Randy Kirk. I think you're going to like this one. If you want to wait till later to decide, you can. But if you want to hit like now just to help the program, to help the channel, make this thing more successful, that'd be great. And then subscribing is always good for the channel also. And if you haven't subscribed already, what's holding you up? And then notification. Well, okay, later today, I am going to start my new theory, my new idea every day, 4 days a week. Well, actually, all 5 days a week, I'm going to report Tesla news and financial information in the evening around 5:30, just like I do in the morning at 7:10 California time. Tonight, I won't have a special guest to help me with that, but the other nights of the week, I will have somebody that will be chiming in. I'm going to try to anyway, starting Monday. But anyway, today, it'll just be me, but it will be that same kind of program I do in the morning. We'll see what you think, okay? All right. So, and then of course hit Patreon. We'd love to have you join Patreon, and I'm thanking so many people for joining this month. It's really been a very good month for new Patreon memberships. And then you may also want to get yourself a Cybertruck bottle opener. I had somebody write in just a little while ago on Patreon and says, "Hey, I got my Cybertruck bottle openers, and they really work well." Well, yeah, that's good. I'm so glad to hear that they work well. They definitely do. There's no doubt about that. All right. Elon Musk has been saying that full self-driving will be ready for backseat driving by the end of the year for a few years now. Depending on how you parse his quotes, we can say that he's been really, really sure of this success for at least 4 years and maybe longer. When do you think it'll happen, though? When do you believe that it'll finally get there? Seriously, get a date in your head. Is it sometime next year? Is it sometime in 2025? Sometime in 2026? I mean, worst case, what do you really think is going to, do you think there's any chance it'll happen in 2024? Or what about, are you driving it? Are you seeing the increase in the quality of the drive? I know that I only drive our Tesla about 50 miles a week, so I'm not a good judge, but my wife is telling me, she's saying, hey, this is just getting better and better and better. And I know you've watched the videos, these guys that go out and drive. Every time there's a new update, they go out and drive it again. And I'm sure you're seeing what they're seeing is that they're saying, hey, they're driving 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes without even having to have some kind of an intervention. So now, there's also the fact that we've got the new video in, video out thing happening. Do you think that is going to really make a big difference? What do you really think? Yes? No? Do you think what about the massive compute that's being added? What about the millions and millions and millions of miles of additional drive time that's going in terms of data? Is all that finally going to come together? Are we going to have that Chat GPT moment? Maybe you don't think it'll happen until the end of 2025. And so I'm going to just use that. Okay. I'm going to say, nope, it's going to be sometime in 2025, maybe even towards the end of 25, 2 years from now, that finally FSD is ready and Elon drives it from coast to coast without one intervention, something like that. So what do you think the percentage chance that is correct 2 years from now? 50%? Only 20%? I don't know, write it down or keep a note in your mind for later. All right. We've had, I'm gonna assume, therefore, that in 2026, we will have FSD operational. People will be subscribing in huge numbers in 2026, and that we will be set up for Robo Taxi, which we'll talk about later. All right. What about the Gen 3 vehicles? Well, all right, let's say that Mexico doesn't break ground until June of 2024. And then we'll give it 18 months to get built. That would be the end of 2025. Thus, your generation vehicles out of Mexico would be unlikely to be later than, in any quantities, would be sometime later in 2026. So I'd give that a close to 100% certainty. What do you think? Is that about right? About 100% sure that in early 2026, they will start mass producing Gen 3 vehicles? Well, maybe they actually start digging in March of this year instead of June, and it only takes 12 months to start production. I mean, with all the prep, maybe it'll really go up quickly. And that would give us March 2025 as the beginning of production. And by 2026, they would be into some serious numbers. I'll give that a 33% likelihood. In the meantime, Gen 3 cars might already be made in Austin, Berlin, China, India, because maybe some of those all happen faster. I mean, Elon says they're going to really start building some of them, or it appears that what Elon is saying, they're going to build some of these in Austin. Berlin, that building's going to start going up in the first half of next year. India, that decision is going to be made in the first half, apparently, of 2024. Maybe that one goes up quickly. Maybe they take some space in Shanghai or some space. Who knows? We don't know what's going to happen. I think we can be pretty darn confident that in 2026, 2 years and 2 months from now, we will have a lot of Gen 3 vehicles being built. All right, let's look at the 4680s. We've just heard that the 4680s first line will be fully ramped by mid-2024. The second line is already in operation. Lines 3 and 4 will be up in the next 2 quarters. Lines 5 through 8 are now being installed and will be starting production before the end of 2024. And I think Reno's lines will be set up in 2025 and beginning to produce by the end of 2025. And how many lines are going to be there? Oh, let's see. 4 times 20 lines, 500 gigawatt hours. And then Berlin, they've already built the lines at Berlin. They may have changes they need to make, but that's part of the new deal they've just made with the Berlin government, that they're going to be making twice as many batteries as they said they were going to make, and twice as many cars. Well, all right, so 2026 capacity might be 800 gigawatt hours. That's assuming no production in China, India, Indonesia, etc. And there might be production in those places too by then. Since Tesla only used about 100 gigawatt hours in 2022, and even if they grow at 100% a year due to megapacks and power walls, they will be making enough for their own use and might be selling batteries by 2026. And then still, of course, still buying from others for depending on the use case. Meanwhile, the IRA benefit will be on the order of $25 billion per year. In 2026 versus total 20, that's by 2026, $25 billion a year versus Tesla's total profits of under $10 billion in 2023. Now, what are the odds on this? I would say 100% for half of that, maybe 400 gigawatt hours, maybe 50% for the 800 gigawatt hours, maybe 25% for more than 800 gigawatt hours because they've started to do in India or Indonesia or someplace else. All right. Let's move next to energy storage. By the way, that 25 billion won't show up as a profit line. It'll be in the cost of goods sold, but it should allow Tesla, therefore, to make more profits on the vehicles. And I haven't even included that in the numbers I'm going to show you later. All right, now let's talk about energy storage. Well, at this moment, we have only one plant, and it's close to fully ramped. And another promised in Shanghai that might be ready to go. We don't know. We don't know what's happening to that plant in Shanghai. But we might have been waiting for some of that equipment to be ready to install. It doesn't take any time at all to put the plant together in this particular case. So maybe 9 months. So while no additional sites have been announced, I'd say there's almost 100% chance that there will be 2 more fully ramped by 2026, closing in on $100 billion in sales. And if you add in Powerwalls, now you're over 100 billion in sales. Tesla's total sales for 2023 will be about 100 billion. And we're talking about 100 billion in sales of Megapacks and Powerwalls in 2026, just 2 years and 2 months from now. I actually think this is a very, very conservative estimate. In reality, it's probably much higher. How do you feel about this estimate? Do you agree about my 100% certainty, or would you give it 80% or 70% by 2026? Okay, what about semi-trucks? I'm going to go super low here. I'm going to say 30,000 in 2025, 50,000 in 2026. That's only $200,000 per year. So, I'm sorry, and only 200,000 per vehicle. So that'd be about 10 billion in sales. So this one may not be a home run in 2026. It'll just be a good solid double. But 2027, maybe 2028, maybe the numbers start to increase dramatically. But for this one, I'm going to go lowball. Total car production. Well, using the 50% per year, we'd reach 3.7 million in 2025, and that'd be pushing 5 million or so in 2026. The law of large numbers might start to play out there. So can I get you to agree a 100% chance for 4 million cars? Would that work out for you? Or maybe a 50% chance for reaching actually the bigger number of 5 million cars. And maybe it'd be more given the Gen 3 vehicles. Okay, let's share the screen and start plugging. You think I'm missing something. Oh yeah. You're saying, wait, what about Robo Taxi and Randy? How could you possibly forget Optimus? Okay, so if FSD is cracked no later than early 2026 or late 2025, we will have Robo Taxis soon after. People are like, oh, it'll take so long for regulations. No, some states and or countries will allow immediate rollout based on what Tesla decides to do. So by 2026, I'd say we're going to have about 1 million owners who will offer their cars out to be robotaxis when they're not in use. Now, a lot of that is going to be serious companies who own 3 or 5 or 100 or 200 or 1,000 cars that'll be putting them out into the robotaxi environment. So I'm just saying that 10% of the total fleet, because at that point, there's going to be about 10 million Teslas running around here and there. For 2026, there'll be only 1 million of them, okay? And that would be 0 so far in the Tesla corporate fleet, which under this scenario, I'm saying the Tesla corporate fleet doesn't really get started until 2027. They use my car and your car and some of those bigger fleet owners as a testing ground and then roll out their own cars in 2027. Under this scenario, under other scenarios, like for instance, if it gets solved by next week, well, the Tesla fleet could be much sooner. Now, the point of this exercise is really about projecting out for part of the business that gets no love from the investment community outside of we fans. Well, because like even energy is barely on the radar, and yet it will soon be a huge contributor by 2026, 100 billion in sales. Anyway, let's talk about Optimus. Well, I'm a huge optimist. And not without reason. We're only days away from November when Elon has stated Tesla will start production. Now, sometimes he's late. So let's say he's a few months late. It still means we're likely to see some kind of production line in 2024, way ahead of 2026, unless Elon decides to go counter to his own statements regarding the pricing of, when cars were selling like crazy and they couldn't build enough and the prices were going up in the marketplace because people were buying them and reselling them. Elon says, no, stop that. The investors should get that gain, not flippers. So I think he's going to charge a lot for these Optimus robots. And I think that he's actually probably not going to sell any. They're all going to be leased. And that's what we'll use for our numbers. So I think 1 million units also as a bare minimum in use. All right. So maybe it's only 300 or 400,000 in 2025. and then another 500,000 or 600,000 in 2026. I think it's going to be way more than that, but those would be really small numbers when it's as easy as it is to, once you start building these things, it is not like a car in terms of building out the lines. It's not like batteries. I think you could have multiple millions in 2026. All right. So I am now going to share the screen. All right, let's start by looking at Robo Taxi. The average Robo Taxi will get 60,000 miles per year minimum. Tesla will take no less than 10 cents a mile profit. That would be $6,000 per vehicle per year for non-Tesla owned fleet. If you got 100,000 of those, that'd be a $600 million profit. My $1 million number, that's a $6 billion profit. And of course, if it gets to 10 billion in a few years, that'd be a $60 billion profit. Those are really serious numbers. Remember, the most profitable company in the world is Apple at about 100 million of profit. Tesla-owned vehicles, when that happens, it'll be like a 40 cent a mile profit. And therefore, you can see how the numbers should dramatically go up to where even when there's only 1 million of those out there, it's a $24 billion profit. So these are really significant numbers. When you talk about Optimus, it's even more significant. So you've probably seen some of my other talks about Optimus. They're going to cost about $5,000 to $10,000 a piece to build, probably less than that. And then I'm saying that they're going to have using a 20,000 a year profit idea here. If you had 100,000 out, it's 2 billion. If you have 1 million out, it's $20 billion a year. But it's not going to be a $20,000 profit per year. It's going to be more like a $60,000 profit per year. And that's the number we're going to use. So let's go plug in the numbers and see where we get. All right. So we take all the cars and the Cybertrucks, and we say it's 4 million units. And we're saying it's an average of 45,000 because at this point, we're still not quite into the big numbers with regard to the Gen 3 vehicles. So that's 180 billion in revenue. I've only got a 22% profit in there. See, this is what I was talking about earlier. If you add in some of the profit from the IRA into this number, it gets a lot bigger. Okay. So I'm just going to go with 22%. I think this is all conservative. 40 billion. Maybe, you can say, oh, Randy, maybe it's going to be only 40,000 each. It doesn't change it very much, but let's just, for today, it might be more cars. Could be more cars, and it could be higher margins that would make up for that. So we're going to go with 40 billion in profit for all cars, the full range of cars. Okay. Mega packs and power walls, 50,000 units at $2 million each. So the power walls are just kind of add into this. Okay. 100 billion in revenues, 25% margins. I think it's going to be more than 25%. And again, if you add in the IRA numbers, I think it's even more than that, but we're going to just stick with this. So now we've got 25 billion for that. Services, we're going to have 10 billion just from FSD subscriptions. Okay. At $2,400 a year, even at $200 a month, I think it'll be more than $200 a month by then, but let's take $200 a month. I think you're going to get a whole bunch of folks that are going to sign up. So, but you also have insurance and all these other used car sales and lots and lots of cars at that point starting to need some maintenance, cars that are going to have accidents that are going to need repairs, et cetera, et cetera. Lots and lots of service income. I'm saying that's at a 70% average. So 14 billion in profit. Then you got remember I said only 50,000 in 2025. I think that's extremely low. I'm only going to say $200,000 a piece. I think they're going to sell for a lot more. And that's 10 billion at a 30% margin. We got 3 billion. It's big, not a big number here. It has to get into the hundreds of thousands before it becomes a big number. Optimus, as discussed, 1 million units. Now that means 1 million in use. Because remember, all the ones that are sold in 2024 and 2025 are still in use in 2026 and still earning $60,000 a year. So 1 million of them, it's 60,000. Oh, that's $60 billion. Oh yeah. And I've already got all the margins out. It might be, there might be some overhead, but all the margins are out. So that's 100%. So 60 billion. Robo Taxi, we've got 1 million of those out there at $6,000 each. That's 6 billion. If it gets into some bigger numbers, of course, it becomes bigger. And remember, if they have their own fleet, it's even bigger than that. So now you've got $6 billion in profit from that. You add it all up, it comes up to $141 billion. I'm going to throw in $20 billion of overhead, might be higher, lower, who knows. $121 billion in net profit. So there you go. You divide that. I divided it by 350 million shares at this point, because I'm figuring there'll be a lot, more shares that have been given out to employees and maybe to Elon. So anyway, that's $36 a share. If you put a 50p on that, oh, that's only $1,800 stock price. Darn, only 1,800. Now, it might be a much higher PE because the company is going to be growing like this at that point with regard to Robo Taxis and Optimus, and maybe semis, and maybe energy. So the number, the year-over-year growth might be even higher than it is now in terms of profits. And so it might get 100 PE, so it might be a $3,600 a share. But anyway, I'm just going with a 50 PE at $1,800 stock price. Now, you can take away, go ahead, take away all the Optimus, take away all the Robotaxi completely. Neither one of those happened. Well, that's about a $67 billion profit, or about $20 per share. And if you throw a 40 PE on that, it's still $800 stock price by 2026, just by hitting those other numbers. Now, you might have a much larger PE because, again, the numbers might be increasing, continuing to increase at 50% a year. And so maybe you've got an 80 PE. Now that doubles it to a $1,600 stock price without any Robotaxi or Optimus income at all, and just $10 billion from FSD subscriptions. Anyway, I think you're beginning to get my point. 2026 is the year. That's the year when things are going to kind of break loose. That's the year when the world is going to get it. You're going to have to be living under a rock not to understand that Tesla is now a massive company with profits bigger than Apple's and growing like this. And it's going to be hard to dispute it anymore. And those stock prices will probably be in place. So what do you think? Let me know. What am I still crazy? I mean, this is as conservative as I get, okay? I don't know how to get it more conservative than this. Could you do 3 million cars instead of 4 million? Yeah, but that would be a very disappointing result. Megapacks, less than 50,000. I don't see how you get less than 50,000 megapacks. I mean, 50. I don't see how you get less than 50,000 semi-trucks by 2026. Optimus, 1 million. I think that's a very low number. And Robotaxi, 1 million, 10% of the fleet. If it's working, if FSD is working, I don't see how these numbers are not super conservative. But I'd love to hear your point of view. Remember, later today, you want to hit notify, because later today, I'm going to start my afternoon show. I don't know, what would she call it? After the what? After the close? Closed for business? Anyway, I got to come up with a name for the afternoon show. Tell me names. Hit me with the comments below. What should I name the afternoon show? And then, of course, I'll still be having normal things like this at the midday, along with my interviews with people like Brian White, Brian Wong, and others when they have something that they would like to share. Oh, well, Brian White is now a regular. He's going to be on twice a week until further notice. The Brian White shows are getting commonly our very, very best numbers. Now, this is a good time if you want to support the channel on Patreon. There's a lot of work goes into this. If you can afford the $5, do it. If you can't afford the $5, don't do it. Please don't stretch yourself to put up the $5. And if you can go, if you're well-to-do and it's not a stretch at all, throwing $10 is be great. And you can get a Cybertruck for free. A Cybertruck bottle opener for free. Let me be clear. Oh, and something happened today. I'm so sorry. If you join Patreon and you want a Cybertruck as your gift for joining at the $10 level, I still need the $20 for freight, because it just costs that much to get it up to Canada, which happened today with one of my Patreon folks, and so or to Europe or wherever else. I need that $20. Okay, so just send that over to I think you can actually, there's a way to do it on Patreon, but if it's easier, just do it through PayPal.me. I'm sorry, .me/Randy Kirk, all in lowercase letters. And of course, you can also buy them for $25 a piece. All the information down below in the description. So that's all we got for today. I will see you later today with my first version of After Hours or something. I'm not sure what we're going to call it. It's been great talking to you.